IAS 37 covers provisions, contingent liabilities and contingent assets. And it's quite a controversial standard because a provision is a liability of uncertain timing or amount, which means there's a lot of judgment behind it. And it's maybe not the most perfect standard, but it's the best we've got for firms dealing with uncertainties in their accounts. And for a provision, you need three things. Firstly, you need a present obligation from a past event. Now that means that you can't provide for future things to do with climate or catastrophes because really they haven't happened yet. And that may be updated as sustainability reporting changes, but as it stands, you can only provide for something that's happened and an obligation from a past event. The second thing is you've got to have a reliable estimate. And this is one where people often get confused because they think, oh, what I need to do is put in a worst case scenario. But that's not what the standard says. It says a reliable estimate being the most likely outcome. So if you're a business that has a warranty provision to repair some goods, really you're looking at your history of repairs and saying, what is my expected value with those repairs when I add them all up over the next 12 months? And if it's a court case, again, not looking at the worst possible scenario, but taking legal advice and saying, well, what is the most likely outcome? What is the most realistic amount that we're going to put in? Okay, so that is our reliable estimate. And the third thing is a probable outflow. And a probable outflow means it's more likely than not that you'll pay the amount out. And in that case, you put a liability and an expense in. If it's not probable, that doesn't mean you can just leave it off your books though. You need to disclose what is known as a contingent liability. And it sounds like that would go in the financial statements, but it's just a note to the accounts. And well-informed investors will often turn there quite early. Sometimes it's more interesting parts of an account because you can see really what's going on, what legal cases are rumbling on, what controversies. Really, that's the more juicy bit of a set of accounting notes, really. And you can see what is maybe not probable and what the company doesn't think they're necessarily going to have to pay out, but they have to tell you what the case is, how much it's going to be, the potential liability, an estimated date of when it's going to be resolved, so that, again, well-informed investors can take that into account when they're making decisions. There's also a thing called a contingent asset, which is where you've got a potential inflow. So maybe you're suing somebody and you might get some money. But you can only recognize that as a disclosure note if it's probable. So if there's a chance you might get it, you don't put that in your notes. Only when you're saying, actually, it's quite likely that we're going to get this money back, well, then you put it as a disclosure, not as an asset. You put it as a disclosure in the notes. And really, this is exercising prudence so that really a company is recognizing losses and potential liabilities earlier than potential gains.